Marcel shot straight to the top, but life wasn't all good for this TV bad girl.
Acting saved my life.
Intimate Portrait, Vanessa Marcel, premieres next. Next on Intimate Portrait, Vanessa Marcel. She earned awards, fans, and respect, playing General Hospital's bad girl, Brenda Barrett.
I believe I was born to play Brenda.
She was more driven than I've ever seen anybody.
There's something intriguing about her.
She stirred things up on Beverly Hills 90210.
She was a spitfire.
Beneath Vanessa Marcel's confident exterior was a woman still showing the scars of a painful childhood and an abusive father.
He had a lot of anger, and it just would come out during the drinking times.
She drank to escape her sadness.
I started to have blackouts, which is a pretty good sign that you're drinking too much.
And while still in her teens, she faced a scare that all women fear.
I was 18 when I had my first lump.
Through it all, Vanessa is the woman she always knew she could be. Truthful, hopeful, and wise. This is an intimate portrait of Vanessa Marcel. Lifetime's Intimate Portrait, hosted by Meredith Vieira.
When your mother names you after Vanessa Redgrave, you've got some pretty big shoes to fill. But when Vanessa Marcel stood up to receive an Emmy Award for her role as Brenda Barrett on General Hospital, she proved that she's got what it takes to fill them. I recently appeared on General Hospital, and I witnessed her talent up close. No wonder Prince wrote The Most Beautiful Girl in the World with her in mind. But as you're about to discover, he could have called his song The Most Courageous Girl in the World. This is her story, her words.
As the daughter of an alcoholic and abusive father, Vanessa Marcel internalized feelings of guilt and low self-esteem.
I always carried that feeling of if I could be better in some way, then maybe my life would be different in my family and emotionally.
For a woman to not have that experience of a father that is proud of them and that loves them no matter what, it's tough.
To mask her pain, she began drinking when she was just 11 years old.
I didn't drink for the fun of it. I drank to drink until I couldn't feel or couldn't remember anything.
As a teenager, she was arrested and failed out of high school.
I think I just kind of figured, what's the point? You know, when you're feeling bad about yourself, you just kind of usually continue the downward spiral.
I did notice that she didn't much care about herself anymore.
It wasn't until she started acting that she finally began to let the feelings come through.
I think acting probably saved my life because it gave me a safe place to let all of those old emotions out and have it be okay.
Vanessa's journey toward loving herself would be long and difficult, and eventually, even the safe haven of acting would prove not to be enough.
I really, really needed to contemplate what I wanted out of life and whether or not I still wanted to act.
Vanessa Marcel was born Vanessa Ortiz in mid-October of 1969 in the dry desert community of Indio, California. Her parents, Pete and Patricia Ortiz, were young and unprepared for the pressures of parenting.
They met in school and got married when they were 14 and 15 years old.
I got pregnant, and in those days that was very shameful. My stepfather kicked me out of the house the minute he found out.
Patricia moved in with Pete's family, and though they were both just teenagers themselves, they continued having children. By the time she was 20 years old, Patricia was the mother of 3.
My brother's 10 years older than me, my sister's 9 years older than me, and my closest sibling is 6 years older than me, so I feel in a lot of ways like I grew up as an only child.
Vanessa, her mother and her siblings, Sam, Tina, and Sherry, were living anything but an idyllic home life in the California desert.
My father's an alcoholic and was very violent and was pretty abusive on every level, emotionally and physically.
I really didn't have any place to go, no parents to go back to, no relatives. I think by the time Vanessa had gotten there, I just almost had given up about finding any help.
I remember when I was a kid, I didn't really realize that other kids didn't live that way, because I had never known anything different.
When Vanessa was 6, she realized that her life was not the same as other kids.
One of my childhood friends was over to stay the night, and my mother and father got in a huge fight in the backyard, and my father started to hit my mom, and so she was screaming, and I was kind of used to it, so I continued to play Barbies with my friend. I looked up and I saw the look on her face, and that's when I really realized that it wasn't the norm to have your parents get physical like that when they argued.
The realization was a turning point in Vanessa's childhood development.
So I started kind of lying about everything as a kid because I wanted to pretend like my home life wasn't like that.
She would tell a lot of lies to make our family and make herself look better, which really saddened me a lot.
I always thought when I was a little girl that if I could have been a better little girl, or if I could have been a different little girl, then my father wouldn't have been the way he was. So I liked to pretend like I was other people, and then I would imagine that that character also probably had a father who thought she was his little princess.
Vanessa's one focus for happiness was her mother. The two became a lifeline for each other.
When I was a little girl, my mom was an angel to me. She was the funniest, the smartest. She was my hero when I was a kid.
We kind of just huddled together because of all the chaotic stuff that was going on in our house. A lot of times it would end up being just the two of us together. And I think we would have loved it if it could have just been that forever.
Patricia tried to offer her children experiences that would bring both happiness and growth to their lives.
I took all of the girls for acrobat lessons and ballet, tap, and I went a step further with Vanessa and took her to guitar, singing lessons.
My mother kind of introduced all of it to me, and I started writing songs, and I wrote a song called Growing Up God, and because at 11 you know a lot about growing up.
I listened to it and thought, oh my gosh, she's great.
Patricia was so impressed with her little girl that she entered Vanessa into a singing contest when she was in the 6th grade.
I didn't tell anybody about it because she was a little bit shy, and I was a little bit afraid that they were going to say something to discourage her.
Just my mom and I went, and I won first prize. And it was one of the first times I can remember really feeling like I fit in somewhere with all these other little kids who were artists.
But as Vanessa grew older, she began to withdraw, even from her mother, and looked elsewhere for the means to forget the pain she was feeling at home. When she was 11 years old, she began to drink.
When you're a kid, you pretty much drink whatever you can get your hands on. I would drink, cough syrup if that made me forget who I was at the time.
By the time she was 14, Vanessa had gone from being a skinny girl with a mouthful of braces to a beautiful young woman.
From 6th to 8th grade, middle school, I had braces and was very skinny. And then summer before high school, I got my braces off and I got a few curves overnight. I remember the first day of 9th grade, a whole different ball game with the way everyone reacted to me. And I had no idea how to deal with it.
Vanessa felt none of her beauty on the inside and tread further down the path of self-destruction.
I think I just kind of figured, what's the point? When you're feeling bad about yourself, you just kind of usually continue the downward spiral. And I started doing a lot of drugs and drinking a lot. I started to have blackouts, which is a pretty good sign that you're drinking too much.
It didn't take long for Vanessa's destructive behavior to catch up with her.
I went on to get straight F's and got kicked out of my high school.
She had been such a great student before that. All her teachers loved her. She made wonderful grades. and then suddenly it just all fell.
Next, rock star royalty gives Vanessa the confidence to go on.
He's really the first person who told me, you know, you can be whatever you want to be, and I believed him.
And later, Vanessa finds a home in Port Charles and in Hollywood.
I always knew she had a lot going on, you know, in the eyes. She had great eyes.
When Lifetime's intimate portrait of Vanessa Marcel returns. Welcome back to Lifetime's intimate portrait of Vanessa Marcel. In her early teens, Vanessa Marcel struggled to cope with an abusive home life by turning to drugs and alcohol. Through a haze of intoxication, she had watched her life go from bad to worse as she failed out of high school. It was all a cry for help.
I was a little angry that nobody was protecting me or stopping it. So I was rebelling. So somebody would notice that there was something wrong in my household.
Everything came to a head one night when drunken Vanessa got arrested. She hit rock bottom, spending 8 days in jail. But finally, the misdirected teenager got what she had been screaming for, some attention.
When I got arrested, I had this really great probation officer, and he used to come to my house, and my father never hit me again after that, because there was someone in the house checking all the time.
Vanessa was forced to attend a probationary high school, and under strict supervision, had the time and the help to get her life back on track.